Right now, I'm challenging myself to see if I can make 128 Regulation H teams that are each different from one another over the course of 128 days. Why 128, you might ask? At the end of the 128 days, we're going to do something special where we battle every team against each other in a single elimination bracket to see which team emerges on top. There will be some competitively strong teams, there will be some gimmick teams, and there will be some probably a good number of goofs and gaffs in there, so if you want to follow through to the end, subscribe so that you can keep up with each day. But without further ado, let's move on to day 51. Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and in today's video we are going to be going over a Delphox team. Now Delphox has picked up by a good number of people seeing the value in Delphox since the speed of everything in the format has gone down, and Size Spam is kind of popular, and Delphox might be like the most ideal Size Spam user depending on the team that you're running, and it also has some pretty unique tools for itself. So let's just talk about Delphox here. Delphox is going to be running the Expanding Force, as we mentioned, for the Size Spam, which is a very strong move whenever you get Psychic Terrain up, because it becomes a spread move and gains 1.5 times power, and we're Terra Psychic so that we can either further boost the power of our Expanding Force. And the other stab that we have is Delphox's used to be signature move. We have the Mystical Fire option, which will lower the special attack of any target that it hits. On Delphox, we're also going to be running the Nasty Plot. Since Delphox is at least able to take one attack, and since we have redirection on this team, the Nasty Plot is kind of consistent on Delphox, and Delphox is fast enough that we can get off a Nasty Plot and then start attacking. And on Delphox, we're going to be running the Psychic Seed, so that way we can immediately get rid of our item for our Magician ability, which allows us to steal an item off a Pokemon that we have attacked, as long as that Pokemon doesn't faint, I believe, or the item doesn't get used up. Then we can steal an opponent's item, which can lead to some negative scenarios, but more often than not it's positive. Next up we got Indeedee, and Indeedee is back again because it is our Psychic Surge setter, and this Indeedee set is pretty simple. We're just running Psyshock on this Indeedee because if a Pokemon, we have a lot of special attackers on this team except for Mienshao and Dugtrio, and it's nice to have a physical attack to catch Pokemon that expect to be special tanky in front of Delphox and Indeedee off guard, so that way Indeedee can do a little bit more chip with the Psyshock. But other than that, we're just running standard Indeedee things. We have the Follow Me for redirecting these single target attacks. We have the Helping Hand for boosting the Pokemon that is next to Indeedee's damage. We also have the Safety Goggles so that we can redirect things like Sleep. And we're Terra Dark, so because Dark resists Dark, and Dark is the only thing that Indeedee was previously weak to. Next up, we got Toedscruel, and I wanted to slap on Toedscruel and Weezing here so that we can kind of get their combo going. But Toedscruel itself is going to be using the Spore, which is one of the main reasons that you would be running Toedscruel, is because Toedscruel is a really fast Spore user. It just gets held back by its ability Mycelium Mite, which means that we have negative priority on our status moves. However, with Weezing we can negate this negative ability, which means that we're using Spore really fast and putting things to sleep really quickly. But we also have some other utility options in the Acid Spray for lowering the special defense of Pokemon, and Acid Spray isn't a status move, so we can use that at normal speed with Toedscruel if we want to lead like Delphox and Toedscruel, for example, and maybe like protect Delphox and get an Acid Spray with Toedscruel to really catch the opponent off guard when we then swap into Indeedee to get up the Psychic Terrain. But Toedscruel can also hold its own a little bit with the Acid Spray and the Earth Power, because we can really start chaining damage against Pokemon that don't expect to take too much damage from the Earth Power. And on Toedscruel, we're going to be running the Cover Cloak, mostly so that we don't get faked out, but it is always useful for ignoring other nasty secondary effects. And we're Terra Water because water gives us a resistance to fire and steel and a lot of good things. And then to complement Toedscruel, we have the Galarian Weezing, who is going to be neutralizing gas to negate all abilities on the field. So if we don't want Delphox to have to take like a negative item, or a Pokemon that we think has a negative item, we can use neutralizing gas to make it so that Delphox doesn't have to do that. But neutralizing the opponent's ability more often than not is more beneficial for us than at the cost of negating our own ability. And on this Weezing, we're going to be using the Choice Specs set, but we're not going Boom this time. We're just using Strange Steam and Sludge Bomb and Dazzling Gleam as our stab moves, and we are Terra Fire, so we're going to be also using Heat Wave on Weezing just to do a lot of damage into a lot of Pokemon that Delphox doesn't want to have to deal with. Up next we got Mienshao, and Mienshao is just rocking a lot of offensive options, as we have the Stab Close Combat. We also have the Knockoff for getting rid of items, And Poison Jab also works with our Terra Poison that we're using on Mienshao, mostly just to avoid taking super effective fairy damage. And we also have the U-turn on Mienshao in case we need to pivot, and Mienshao is like exactly 2 speed points faster than Delphox, so if there's not something that uses priority and Delphox is faster than both the Pokemon on the field, we can lead Mienshao and Delphox, and we can U-turn out with Mienshao into Indeedee. And we are inner focused, so that way we're not getting intimidated, but we're also not getting flinched, and we do need to be careful about that whenever we're using Weezing and Mienshao together, because it means that Mienshao can be faked out. We're using Life Orb on Mienshao just to make sure that we're boosting it damage enough to get those necessary KOs. And lastly on the team, I decided to include Dugtrio here since we haven't gotten to use Dugtrio yet. And the main reason that you would be running Dugtrio is because of its technically not signature ability, but also signature ability Arena Trap, where Dugtrio is the only fully evolved Pokemon that has Arena Trap. But Arena Trap functions like Shadow Tag, or maybe it's actually better to say that Shadow Tag functions like Arena Trap, but it makes it so that the opponent isn't able to switch out. So if the opponent is leading something that they expect to always beat Delphox and Indeedee, we can Arena Trap them in with Dugtrio and hopefully try to knock them out fairly quickly. And to do that, we have the Stomping Tantrum, which is our best ground stab option except for Earthquake, but nothing on this team wants to take an Earthquake. We also have the Rock Slide, just to add a little bit of variability in our favor, and we also have the Sucker Punch, which we can't use on the Psychic terrain, but Sucker Punch can sometimes be nice for getting Focus Sashes. And we're Clear Amulet so that we're not getting attack or speed drops, because the Dugtrio is actually really fast, so it really values its speed. And we're Terra Steel just because Steel is such a good defensive typing. But yeah, that's the basic gist of the team. Let's get into some battles. Alright, so first up we have a bit of a balanced team as a Primarina for water, Volcarona for fire, and 2 grass components in the Sinistcha and the Rillaboom, but they also have the Hitmontop, which is a bit of unique support as Hitmontop can wide guard for all the other Pokemon here. And also Metagross is just like the strongest answer into being anti-Psy spam, and we can't, even if it was a special attacker, we can't drop its special attack with Mystical Fire, but it's probably a physical attacker. So the opponent decides to lead Primarina and Metagross, and I decided to lead Mienshao and Dugtrio, so we've now locked them in, and I just deal good Stomping Tantrum damage into Primarina because I wanted to follow up with the Poison Jab from Mienshao in order to get Primarina out of the way, as that was the biggest threat to the Delphox, but now we can... So we bring in Delphox here, they bring in Volcarona, and I thought first turn that they might Terra Metagross, seeing as Dugtrio is a ground type and it could at least like do pretty decent damage into it. But they decided to Terra second turn, which I'm pretty fine with as I Rock Slided, but the Volcarona actually protects, and the Metagross full on dodges the Rock Slide as we get the Nasty Plot with Delphox, and they Heavy Slam into Dugtrio in order to KO it here. But now we get to bring in Indeedee, which activates our Psychic Seed, and they swap in Rillaboom in order to get rid of our Psychic Terrain. As I went Terra Psychic, and I was half predicting that they would swap in the Volcarona out, as Volcarona was kind of the biggest threat if we went Terra Psychic, since it could still click Bug-type moves into us, and Metagross probably wasn't going to click a resistant move into Delphox as it's revealed Psychic Fangs and Heavy Slam, so it might not actually have too much to hit Delphox once Indeedee goes down. But they Stomping Tantrum into Indeedee as they get Rillaboom in, and as if you saw, we stole the Choice Band that Rillaboom was holding, so now we are Choice Banded on Delphox, which is not a great Magician steal. But the opponent actually gives up at this point, mostly just because, like, even if they did fake out and then Metagross Stomping Tantrum into the Delphox, that probably still wouldn't KO Delphox, and we can just redirect with Indeedee for the Stomping Tantrum that would come after that. So Delphox with the ×2 special attack would probably still be able to handle Metagross, Rillaboom, and the Volcarona that's in the back. So here we have what looks to be Maushold Gallade really caught my eye because they could be Justified Gallade and then side beat up into it, but they also have like Superior Grimmsnarl for contrary shenanigans with like Scary Face. So I wasn't quite sure how to lead into this team, but I decided to lead Delphox and Indeedee just so we could get up our Psychic Terrain spam. And I thought the Gallade might be Wide Guard, so I decided not to immediately go for the Psy Spam, even though we could take out the Maushold. I just follow me with Indeedee, and they're going to taunt Indeedee, which is fine. I went for Mystical Fire into Gallade, but Gallade actually reveals that it's Terra Dark, and when we Magician it, we steal a Choice Band. So we're not in a great position here. The Maushold is going to redirect as we close combat into it, and it reveals that Sash, but that's fine because we can follow up with the damage from Delphox, and I decided to lock myself into Expanding Force because I thought we would be getting rid of Gallade, but Gallade decides to take out Delphox, which is good for us. As now they bring in Arcanine, but we can bring in Dugtrio, so even if we If they wanted to swap out the Glade, they no longer can, and we get to Stomping Tantrum into the Arcanine, as they can't extreme speed us on the Psychic Terrain, and Mienshao gets to take out the Glade, and the only Pokemon they have in the back is Corviknight, which I wasn't quite sure if we were going to be able to deal with it, because it could, like, start Tailwinding or something really strange, or, like, Iron Defensing, but Close Combat does a ton of damage to it because we're Life Orb, and even with the bulk up that they have here, the Dugtrio's Rock Slide is going to take out the Corviknight, and Mienshao still faster. Here we have a battle against a Dozo team, but they also have the Gothitelle to prevent switching, but we have Dugtrio to prevent switching, so this is kind of a weird opener. We kind of have two ways around the Dozo, which is Dugtrio and Weezing, so that's just why I decided to lead into the game, is Dugtrio and Weezing to keep them from making Dondozo, and they do lead Dondozo and Gothitelle, so we have a good opportunity to deal damage into Dondozo here, but the Gothitelle reads the Fake Out into Weezing as we protect Dugtrio, and both Pokemon every Pokemon on the field can switch out right now because nobody's actually trapping each other with any of the abilities, so maybe it would have been smarter if I swapped out Dugtrio for perhaps another Pokemon on this next turn, but we Stomping Tantrum into Dondozo and we Strange Steam into it, which gets a lot of damage, and we get the Confusion onto Dondozo as the Gothitelle Fake Tears and Dondozo hits itself in Confusion, which is pretty lucky as Dondozo decides to protect this turn, and we Strange Steam into Gothitelle just to get some damage into it, and the Psychic full-on KOs the Weezing here, which I probably should have expected since they went for the Fake Tears, but we're still trapping them now with our ability. It's just that they're also now trapping us, but we get to KO both here with the combo of the Stomping Tantrum and the knockoff. They swap in Tatsugiri and Rillaboom, and I make a bit of a misplay here by swapping into Indeedee to get rid of the terrain, but I Sucker Punched with Dugtrio, but we get to at least negate their Fake Out as they Icy Wind with Tatsugiri, and I'm not sure at this point whether or not Tatsugiri is Choice Scarf. The reason I Sucker Punched it is because I was thinking it was Choice Scarf, but I didn't think about negating my own priority, but it's not Choice Scarf because Dugtrio just gets to Stomping Tantrum into it, or if it was Choice Scarf, it just wasn't fast enough. As we get to Terra Poison Mienshao here and get a little bit of Rock Slide chip with the Dugtrio in order to end the game with the Poison Jab on the Rillaboom. But I think in this game it would have been smarter for me to perhaps lead Toedscruel, so that way we can just threaten the sleep, but I thought that they might lead Volcarona just for immediate like setup pressure with the Gothitelle, so I wasn't quite convinced. But next up we have a battle against a Fire, Grass, Water team, but they also have the Cleaver for a lot of type coverage, but they also have their Riolu, which can give them some Prankster options, and Prankster coaching can be threatening on a number of these bonds. But they lead Riolu and Ceruledge, and we lead Delphox and Indeedee, so I'm perfectly fine with them leading Ceruledge and the Riolu, as they can never make Ceruledge faster than Delphox. So we just go for the Helping Hand, Terra Psychic, Expanding Force here, and Riolu is Sash, so it doesn't get knocked out, but we knock out the Ceruledge there, and they decide to bring in Typhlosion, and we're no longer a fire type, so we are weak to the Typhlosion's Eruption, and if the Typhlosion is Choice Scarf, we're honestly not in a great spot here, but we do have the special defense boost on Delphox, so I figured if it is Choice Scarf, then Delphox might live the attack, but Dugtrio is faster than the Typhlosion, so we don't have to worry about that, as they decide to Coaching into Cleaver as their last Mon, but we're going to Rock Slide both Mons, and we get to take out Riolu, and they gave us the Sun, so I figured I might as well just Mystical Fire into the Cleaver there. And lastly, we have a game against some pretty fierce speed components, as they have both the Whimsicott and the Kilowattrel, which can give them Tailwind, but also if the Sneasler is like a weird Unburden, and also Sneasler is just inherently very fast. But they also have some pretty heavy hitters in the form Skeledirge, who can build damage over time, and the Samurott, which can just do sharpness things over time. And if we can't break Goodra with some of our Pokemon, it'll just end up body press endgaming everything. But they decide to lead Skeledirge and the Sneasler, and I'm pretty fine with that because I decided to lead Toedscruel and Weezing here, and I decided to protect Toedscruel as I really did not want to catch a Dire Claw into Toedscruel this turn, and then also like a fire type attack into Toedscruel wouldn't have been great. And I didn't want to commit the Terra Water yet because I was kind of afraid for Toedscruel's safety. But they decide to fake out into Wheezing, and they reveal that they are a Life Orb on the Sneasler, and they Torch Song into Toedscruel, so a pretty decent turn for us, and I just decide to rip that Terra Water on Toedscruel there, and thankfully Sneasler doesn't get the sleep on Wheezing here, as we get to sleep into the Skeletor, so I won't get to move, and Strange Steam comes out into Sneasler, and that's gonna KO that, as they reveal Whimsicott as their next mon, but they're currently not Prankster, and they're not faster than Toedscruel, so we get to Acid Spray into the Whimsicott, and if it's Focus Sash, that means that the Strange Steam is going to pick up KO into Whimsicott here, and Skeletor gets the first turn Wake Up, and it gets to Torch Song into Wheezing, so abilities are going to be turned back on, which means that it's going to be a little bit difficult for us to put mons back to sleep, especially while Toedscruel is currently taunted from the Whimsicott, but they reveal Samura as their last mon, who I really didn't want to see if I didn't have Wheezing on the field in order to help deal with the Samura, but because we're Terra Water and Toedscruel, I don't have too much of a problem maybe taking 2 attacks this turn, as we get the special defense drop into the Samura, and they decide to go for the critical hit boost, which is perhaps a little bit greedy, but we protected Delphox, and that was the slot that they would more than likely attack. And Skeletor actually reveals that it's Earth Power into the Delphox, so we don't super value Delphox, so I just decided to deal Mystical Fire damage into the Samurott, so that way the Earth Power can probably always pick up KO. And Earth Power is going to knock out Delphox in 1 hit, since Skeletor just currently times 2 from its Torch Song and its Throat Spray. But now we get Indeedee on the field, and we get a free redirect with Indeedee, as we get to Acid Spray into Skeletor in order to lower its special defense. And Torch Song does pretty decent damage into Indeedee, but Indeedee is bulky enough to take it. And we follow me one more time, and I go for the play that I should have gone for probably last turn, which is just Sporing into the Skeletor Earth Power is going to knock it out in 1 hit at this point. So we put Skeletor to sleep with our Slow Spore, and Earth Power knocks it out just in case, because I don't think they had used their Terra at that point, but I also don't think that even with a Terra, they could have really saved themselves from the Earth Power there. Alright, well that was the Delphox team. I do like Delphox a lot. I think it has a lot of utility in the format that's kind of full of Pokemon that really don't have a way to handle both Fire or Psychic Stab, unless your name is like Archaludon, but then we have Fighting and Ground types to deal with Archaludon. And especially with this team, if you get your leads wrong against this team, you're gonna be having a bad time, because it'll be really hard to recover. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, maybe consider leaving a like on the video, and even consider subscribing, because both of those things would help me out an absolute ton, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.